I'm over here with a 2004 Dodge Ram 1500 5.7 liter Hemi. There's really nothing wrong with it. It's run a little rough, but it's got brakes. It runs good for the most part. And yeah, and we're going to go ahead and drive it 0 miles to put it right back where it's at. Question is, can it make it? Probably will. I mean, what can go wrong? This is this old relic. If it can go wrong, it will. So yeah, I haven't done any kind of car videos or anything else with the truck, or even my other vehicle for that matter, recently for quite a while. I think the Timberins was the only thing. So I just kind of throwing this one together. We are, what does it stand for? We're replacing the PCV valve. What is it? The power engine ventilation valve, I think, is the, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Even mechanics, if you give them the actual name, they'll probably be like, huh? It's just a PCV valve is what it's best known for. I got the replacement one here, standard. I don't know. I've never heard of that brand before. We're going to pop this sucker in. There's probably going to be quite a few more videos dealing with the Ram because I got to do a lot of suspension work. I blew out the compressor on the air assists, so that's going to be an upcoming video. I got to deal with some ball joints, and we're going to be putting new shocks on them. I'm actually kind of excited about the new shocks, so that's going to be a fun video. Right now, though, we're going to go tackle this PCV valve. Hopefully we can get to it quickly, but it's more of a modern car, so we have to take half of it apart in order to get to this part. Okay, so the PCV valve is located right about here underneath all of this stuff. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get to that. Let me talk to you a little bit about PCV valves. I mean, I had two choices. We could properly diagnose this thing, or we could just throw parts at it and see what clicks, and I decided just to throw parts at it. The PCV valve is pretty simple. If you are able to look into and see, I don't know if you can see it, that little metal piece, if I turn it around, it disappears. Ooh, it's like a magic trick. Basically, this is how you tell if it's good or not, if it rattles. And so, anyways, like I was saying, we had two options. We could properly diagnose it, and take things apart and properly diagnose it, or just throw a bunch of new parts on it and hope something clicks. I decided to do the right thing and just throw a bunch of parts at it and hope it clicks. But I do think there's an issue with the PCV valve, and I will get into it once we get this air cleaner off. I'll show you why. What's been happening is, ultimately, I've been having some poor gas mileage. It was at like 11 miles per gallon, and it was way off. EPA readings, I think it's 14 for city, which is what I would expect it to be at, or 16 for highway. And it was way down at 11. I replaced the spark plugs. There's actually 16 spark plugs on this. Originally I thought there were 8. I ordered 8. This has been a job that I wanted to do since I got the truck. I ordered 8 spark plugs. Didn't get around to it for a while. Started pulling these plugs and realized that there were 16 of them, so I had to go order 8 more spark plugs. So I just gapped the ones I pulled out and stuck those back in. Let me show you these spark plugs, because this is really, really impressive. So when you look at a spark plug and a bad spark plug, this is typically what you'll find. A lot of carbon buildup. There's a few other types of bad spark plugs, but this is ultimately what you'll find. This was a new one that went in the lawnmower and got destroyed really quickly. It's a really cheap spark plug. It's kind of bad. This is what you expect to see on a used spark plug. That nice golden brown color. It's actually, you might see a little carbon fouling on it, but it's not bad. Ultimately, that's what you want to see when you pull out a used plug. And 120,000 miles. This right here is the original plug to the vehicle. This is OME equipment right here. Came out of the factory with this plug in it. And after 120,000 miles, this is what it looks like. They all look like this. This is actually probably the worst looking one out of the bunch, is what I tried to save. And I could have just gapped these and probably put them right back in. Instead, I went through, don't laugh too hard, and I put these in here. Those you don't know, this is a Bosch Platinum tip. They don't have a very good name. The reason why I got them is because they were the cheapest plugs I could find. The original Champions that they used were really expensive. And these were a whole lot cheaper. It was probably the only brand that I actually trusted that was, that was the least expensive. Otherwise, they were really just cheap ones I've never heard of. These were not that too terribly expensive. That's one of the reasons why I got them. They're actually not bad plugs as a whole. They just don't hold up to what they state that they should be doing, which is they're supposed to give you better fuel economy, and they're supposed to last longer and everything else. And they really don't do that, but they're actually pretty decent plugs as far as plugs go. They just aren't worth the premium that you'll pay for them. So that's one of the reasons why I decided just to go with the Bosch Platinum tips, is because they were cheap. But we're here to do a PCV valve. So let's get to that. So step one, we need to get the air cleaner off. That's going to be one of the more simpler jobs, hopefully. We'll take it off from here so we can keep as much of it together as possible. That might work, maybe. Let me show you. When I did the spark plugs, I also changed the air filter, so this isn't really too terribly bad as far as air filters go, but this is how I kind of gauged it. This was a lot worse on the old air filter, which might have actually been factory, I don't know. But that one didn't look too bad either. But I don't know if you can tell the coloring on that, there's a little oil spot right there. That's usually characteristic of a bad PCV valve. So if you're changing an air filter, you see that. You probably have a bad PCV valve. So now, you know what, I'm going to prop up this hood so it doesn't fall. Shocks don't quite work out on this hood very well, so I gotta get a pair of. So now we gotta figure out how to get this plastic covering off. Great. Hoping there's nothing holding it on in the back, to be honest with you, because that's gonna be a real pain to get to. Looks like we got some screws up here, though. Of course, it's metric. Okay, now we're in a tough spot. Man, where is the PCV valve? Oh, it's way back here, behind the intake here. Ooh. There's where that PCV valve is. Now we just gotta, it's actually, you can't really see it, but it's behind this manifold here. Right there. Yeah, I know you can't see it. I have to change the camera angles, and then things get really tricky after doing that. So we're going to grab some pliers and get that out, get the new one in. Oops. We'll get that later. So I need to turn it this way to turn it off. So it's your standard lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Here's the old one. Now, here's the problem. It still makes the rattle. The little thing's coming up and down. It is quite oil fouled. It's pretty dirty. I probably could have just cleaned it up and stuck it back in, but we got a nice shiny new one. So unfortunately, I don't think that's our issue. Snaps right in. Let me grab the camera and I'll show it to you. You look back in here, way back in there. See this blue? See that blue thing? Right there, that's your PCV valve. So that gives you a location. The new one's already in. That's pretty much it. So all we got to do is put everything back together. Put that plug back on, put in those two screws, put the air cleaner back together, and the PCV valve should change, and hopefully so does my gas mileage. Gas is getting really expensive. So that pretty much concludes this fun-filled adventure. Make sure you like and subscribe. I need it.